Okay, hello everybody once again in the conversation about body liberation, organized by Body Liberation Network in the framework of the microlearning project co-financed by European Union. My name is Aga. I'm blonde, middle-aged, fat woman wearing green, surprisingly. And I have the new guests for today, Aya from Latvia. Hey, Aya.
Hello, Aga.
How are you today?
Fine.
Okay. You have very interesting background for us to discuss because you are a nutritionist.
I'm a nutritionist, weight-inclusive nutritionist.
Exactly. That's the point. Can you tell us, in general, who are mainly your clients with whom you are working with?
Yeah, well, so I specialize in eating behavior. So basically, most of my patients come with problematic eating patterns. And so that can look in many different kind of ways. And in extreme cases, of course, they're eating disorders.
Okay. And I wanted to dig deeper a bit in terms of the eating patterns that you said. Can you tell us? Because from the fat perspective, very often we have, or I had, but talking with my colleagues, we have this kind of feeling that it's us who are doing something wrong. And then sometimes we are ending up in the psychologist office who are telling us, no, you have the disorder. And then we feel again, it's something wrong with us.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a kind of a system that is makes us feel that it's our individual kind of responsibility and our decisions always. And so if there's something wrong with your health or something wrong in any area, really, well, it's up to you probably. Yeah.
Yeah, but what kind, like, I want to understand better what, in this case, it's systemic and what is my fault, let's say.
Yeah, and I think it's... So some perspective says that it's mostly our habits and mostly what we choose. But we see that in the background, there is always genetics, there's always the, your financial status, your education, and your, the place that you live. So there's so many aspects that we're really mostly out of control. So yeah, I am a firm believer that we're much less in control of these things than we imagine or we want to believe.
Okay, so let's imagine the situation that our listeners don't actually know what is weight-inclusive nutritionist. And probably they have quite a lot of experience with the nutritionists in general. Can you tell me the difference in terms of the approach?
Yeah. Absolutely, and I can understand that it's also kind of a confusing term or confusing kind of perspective. And so most of nutritionists, well, not in Canada, they have quite better research, but in Latvia at least, I know that at least 80% of the nutritionists are weight focused. And the difference is on really where we put our focus on. And from the research, we see that weight is not the determinant of actual health. So there's many other things that are much more influential than the weight itself. And so in that,
for example?
Yeah, I'll tell you that. I'll just answer this question first. So I work with my patients, taking in consider their individual needs, their individual wants, their individual health status, and like their blood tests, for an example, and their feelings and their, working with them as humans. Yeah. And then the goals can be very, very different, because if we are taking in consideration only the weight itself, it seems that there's only one solution, which is unfortunately not really a solution. Yeah. So what are we working for?
Diet?
Right?
You mean?
Yeah. Diet, exercise, which is really overvaluated in sense of losing weight because we see it doesn't work that way. Yeah. So there's so many mechanisms that is working against us when we try to lose weight, when we try to reduce the calories, the body is just working as it. Like, no, I'm just reducing my metabolism. So it's a never-ending kind of pattern and game.
Yeah, and there are some research in general. I cannot quote exactly which ones, but stating that diets doesn't work. And stating that depending on the perspective and depending on the research, from 5% to, 20 or 30% diets doesn't work in the long term. And very often a person who is dieting, and I'm not talking about 1 kilo up, 1 kilo down, and I'm rather talking about, 20, 30 kilo up and 20, 30 kilo down. Yeah, that's the range, let's say.
Yeah.
What is happening is that very often those people who are losing, they are gaining even more.
Yes, 2/3.
2/3?
2/3 are gaining back more weight that they actually started before the diet.
Why? How? I mean,
again, it's the metabolism. Yeah, so the metabolism goes down. So you can eat the same amount of food, but you're going to gain weight. And it's called yo-yo dieting. I'm sure you've heard of this.
Ooh,
and it's a big part of reality for a lot of people. You would be surprised. Yeah. And so what happens is that, okay, you lose the weight after the diet, but then and most of the times you cannot sustain it because you're just not satisfying your physiological needs. So imagine not going to the toilet, or going to the toilet and peeing just a little. Yeah, how long would you sustain that? You cannot. It's just not, it's not possible.
Well, with the hardcore depression and without eating for about a year, I think I sustained it for about a year.
But it's and for a while. And the more you try it, the less you can sustain that. That for more, kind of, I even want to say, your body is going to push back harder every time. So it's going to be less and less successful every time because of the experience, because of the panic that is associated, from this experience.
Okay. That's interesting, and especially if we are the group of youth workers also, and we are working with young people who are struggling. Yeah, and very often they are struggling with body image because the society is putting on us unrealistic, let's be honest, body idea, the ideal body shape and size that we should have. What would you suggest to the group of youth workers who have this amazing group of young people where a lot of them are struggling, even if they are not really fat or even they cannot consider, but they are already struggling? From your personal professional background, what would be your recommendations to them?
Yeah, I wish there would be an easy solution to that, and then just, things that you could just do and it would solve everything. But we know for sure that changing your body doesn't necessarily fix the situation. Yeah, that we know. So that wouldn't be the first thing that I would suggest, which most of the times people would think that would be the first thing to do, but not at all, because losing weight doesn't fix body image issues. So it's a kind of a big area, big part, or big topic to consider. What I would consider really is, and it's easier said than done, of course, is putting the focus somewhere else, of really finding areas of life which matter. Where do you want to invest your energy and time? And what is going to be sustainable? Because losing weight is not. So what else can we find? And I find that actually, generally participating in youth work is one of the ways, because you're going to build your self-worth somewhere else, in relationships, in connection, in education, in hobbies, in traveling, and that is already a big benefit, which I find that a lot of people, for example, who are my patients, young people, they don't have this resource. And that's already something that is harming their body image,
I mean, I really must say that I really love right now Aya's face expression, which is so passionate. So for those who are just listening to us, just a short visual explication and description. I do believe in the youth work also, but I would still one question regarding your professional experience, because there is the ongoing discussion that being fat is unhealthy, and you are saying that probably it's or almost certainly in most of the cases it's not the way. So what are the things? I'm not even sure if it's possible to generalize. So just stop me if I'm wrong. But what are the things fat people can do to actually take care about their health?
Beautiful question. Yeah. So one of my most favorite researches, and it was for more than 20,000 people and followed for more than 20 years, was that what matters more than BMI, which is bogus on its own, but
we don't like BMI, not at all.
We're not BMI fans at all. But so when they were comparing, for an example, like mortality and the habits, what the people were having, they saw that there's no difference in mortality between skinny people or people with normal BMI or overweight people or obese people. Yeah. And I'm putting quote unquotes because whatever that means. So there was no difference in mortality if they were having more or less healthy habits. And the healthy habits, you would think like a perfect diet and an exercise plan or whatever. It's not at all the case.
That's the first thing that is coming to my mind, because that's the narration that we always listen to. Healthy habits, meaning healthy diet, eating less and exercising and all this kind of stuff. So if not this, then what?
Okay, so what they were focusing on, and it's probably not it, but I think that these things, if we think about them, they're not, it's not an impossible mission. So we try to focus on having vegetables and fruits sometimes. That would be helpful. So finding ways how to move, and preferably probably a gentle and enjoyable movement. Not smoking and not drinking too much alcohol. So, I mean, and these are, small things, and we can all think about ways how we can integrate these. And so, well, I would think, yeah. And so, and of course, yeah, and this wasn't about the research, but working with mental health, improving our well-being, just thinking about how I can live the best possible life that I can have in this particular body, finding ways how to take care of the existing body. Because the problem is with people who are really dissatisfied with their body, the self-hatred it's not helping to take care of yourself, because it's always thinking I don't like you, and when you're going to be different, I'm going to take care of you and I'm going to start to live a life. Yeah, but the moment sometimes never comes. And then people are old and looking back at their life and be like, I didn't give myself the chance to actually live a life, because I thought that not good enough.
So we can say that it's kind of the vicious circle. The person is dissatisfied with their body, it's dieting and developing mental health conditions, and then those mental health conditions are making them even more dissatisfied with their body very often, because when we are not well mentally, very often, the self-hatred and self-esteem, it's self-hatred, it's going up and self-esteem is going down.
Absolutely. And I find that also we do have a lot of research that says that there is a correlation between health and, for example, cardiovascular disease and diabetes and weight. But correlation is not causation. So we cannot say that one causes the other. And if we see a life of a fat person, we see that oftentimes there is a lot of lifestyle choices that they make because, for an example, they feel really uncomfortable being in a gym, for an example, because of the name calling, or, for example, they have been doing dieting for most of their lives, or the mental state that they often or misdiagnosed eating disorders, for an example. So how can we not take that in consideration, the weight stigma, everything, and so this is not It's not a causation, it's a correlation.
Thank you very, very much. I think it's a very important message to all the people who are listening to us, all the people who are struggling, and also the youth workers with whom we are working to understand it a bit better. And right now, I have for you a question from the public. Probably more, but here is the first one.
Aya, what do you think would help convince professionals with medical background to get on board with anti-fatphobic activism, work, whatever you might call it?
Okay, thank you. I think that's a wonderful question. Yeah, I have been thinking about this actually quite a lot, because I see that a lot of my colleagues in medical area, they're just just the discrimination that people get from in medical settings, that's unbelievable. And I have my own personal experience of trying to involve my colleagues, but I might answer to this in a bit. But I think one of the ways how we can work on this topic is to agree that discrimination is bad. That is harming people. And in whatever area we talk about this, regarding skin color, regarding ethnicity, regarding gender or sexuality. Yeah, so it's harming people, right?
We do agree, yes, please.
We do agree, right. And that's the one thing. And secondly, if we try to look again in the research of the interpretation of the research, and we do have actually quite a lot of beautiful research on how people are suffering and the health outcomes of that. Yeah, so if we see it from that, if we're open enough to see it from that perspective, yeah, then I think that could help. Because, medical settings are usually, people who are working with their, trying to have like a mental stimulus and like intellectual stimulus oftentimes. That could be also like working in conferences. And again, I mentioned that how we try to approach this already. So we had in Latvia a working plan to reduce obesity in Latvia. So they had this work group. And so they were like brainstorming ideas of how to tackle this problem. And what they somehow forgot is that weight stigma is a problem itself, like what people are, experiencing. And so what we did, we went through all of it, and then, like there was a lot of like huge red flags, I have to say. But we went through all of these emotions and went through point by point and like adding things from actually World Health Organization, which like when you mention a World Health Organization to a medical professional, they're already, okay, yes. The boss says that, so that's true.
Who are calling fat people sick also.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So that's why I'm being a bit sarcastic on this, obviously. But so when we already can notice these things in actual data, in actual information, like it's easier to get their attention. So what we did, we proposed our idea and like the things that need to be added to this, and also a bit closing eyes of the things that really shouldn't be there, but you can start one step at a time. And so we added these things, and I sent email to my colleagues in the health center, because I know that there is a lot of also fat positive people, and just like letting them sign it, letting them read it, and it's not a huge health center, it's around 60 people, but still like we got not many responses, but people read it, and at least like I think it was
and
like
supported.
And at least like 10 people signed up, and now it's already opening the discussion about it, opening the idea that we have to see this situation from much wider perspective than we usually just approach it.
I would just say congratulations and thank you very much, Aya, for being today with us. It's a huge pleasure and very important and very often forgotten perspective. So thanks once again, and thank you all for listening. And we are going to see each other for the next conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This podcast is co-funded by European Union, belonging to Microlearning from Body Liberation project. Recorded and edited by Joy Vázquez, Creative Commons.